Here in Montreal, it's pretty dire in some of the emergency rooms, and we're joined now by Dr. Christopher Labos. Dr. Labos is a cardiologist with a degree in epidemiology, and he's a regular contributor here at CJAD 800. You hear him often, and you can catch him every Sunday on Weekends with Joanne Vrackus at 7:20. Dr. Labos, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Very cold, but otherwise quite well.
Tell me about it. It was a delight to meet you, by the way, for the first time ever at our 80th anniversary party a couple of weeks ago, and we had a nice chat. It was good to catch up and to finally see you in person.
Yeah, there are so many names that I have no faces to, and yours was among them up until just that party.
So, listen, Dr. Labos, the emergency rooms in the city in particular are in really bad shape. I was looking at some numbers earlier, and a couple of them over 200% occupancy. What do you think are the factors most contributing to this?
Well, there's two big ones. One is increased demand, the other is decreased supply. So during the winter, when all the respiratory viruses circulate, and that includes influenza, but also COVID and RSV and many other viruses, you always see a surge in people going to the emergency room. And this was true during the pandemic. It was true before the pandemic. There was always a surge in demand for hospitals because just more people get sick during the winter. The added problem that we have now is that post, the onset of COVID-19, we have lost a lot of personnel from the healthcare system. We simply don't have the capacity we once did. So whereas before we could, to greater or lesser degrees, absorb that influx of patients during the winter, now, because of less personnel, because of less bandwidth in the system, we just can't handle it. And so you're seeing longer wait times, more overcapacity, and you're just seeing more and more strain being put on the healthcare system. So it's really those two factors. Now, a lot of sub-factors feed into those, but those are sort of the two big categories of issues that we're dealing with.
So I guess it's basically people just don't have anywhere else to go. They're sitting at home. They're feeling horrible. They have a spiky fever. And they don't have any other resource other than to go to an emergency room where they're probably going to be sitting for hours with other people who are just as sick as they are.
Yeah, and I mean, that's essentially it. People will often say, people are clogging up the emergency rooms with non-emergency cases. And that's a little bit unfair because if you are sick, you don't know if you have pneumonia. You don't know if you have a blood clot in your lungs. You don't know if you have a serious issue that needs hospitalization or not. And if you don't have a family doctor, if you can't get an appointment at one of the, walk-in centers, and I always say this, I fully recognize how bizarre it is to say make an appointment to a walk-in center, but that's how the things work right now. Mm-hmm. If you can't get access to the medical system in any other way, well, of course you're going to show up in the emergency room. So, and there's a lot of other factors that play into it as well. If we had more hospital beds, you could move people out of the emergency room so you had more space for people who are coming in for more acute things. So there's a lot of issues there. But yeah, listen, we can't blame people for showing up to the ER when they're sick. That's what the ERs are for. It's just that the demand that's out there just is not consistent with the supply that we have available in the system.
So you're sitting at home, you've got a temperature of, 103, 104, you're feeling like absolute you-know-what, and should you maybe make a phone call before you head off to the emergency room?
I think that's a safe precaution. If you're not acutely ill, meaning that it's not an emergency and you don't need to call an ambulance, you're probably better off by starting by calling 811 and speaking to, one of the nurse triages there who will sort of advise you about where you can go, because there are options that do not involve the emergency room. And more often than not, if you can wait a day, you might be directed to one of the urgent care clinics that are available on the island the following day. So there are ways to avoid having to go to the emergency room. And that's probably the easiest thing because, the nurse that you speak to might actually be able to give you some helpful advice in terms of managing your symptoms. The only reason why somebody needs to go to the emergency room acutely is, number one, do you need supplemental oxygen because your oxygen level is low and you're struggling to breathe? Number two, are you unable to eat and drink water and you need to be hooked up to an intravenous? Or number three, are you so sick that you might need intravenous antibiotics emergently to prevent you from getting blood poisoning? Mm-hmm. And admittedly, it's going to be hard for most people to know if they've crossed that line or not. But that's sort of the judgment call, is like, are you sick enough that you need one of these emergency treatments right now? Or do you just need to be seen? And if you just need to be seen by somebody and you can wait 24 hours, that's where, calling 811 or going on Click Santé might be a way to get an appointment in relatively short order.
Yeah, it's, as you mentioned, it's kind of a double-edged sword, though. Like, you're not feeling well, but at the same time, you don't want to clog up the emergency room, but maybe you should be going to the emergency room because there might be something underlying there that, could be even more serious.
Right, and this is a problem. Now, overall, as much as everybody says, don't plug up the emergency rooms, the mistake most people make when they are severely ill is they wait at home for too long. One of the sort of the facts that I point out to people whenever I give sort of public lectures on this, the best place to have a heart attack is in a public setting. Because if you start having chest pain at home, you might take some, Tums or an antacid. You might say, let me wait and see if it gets better on its own. And you wait and you wait and you wait. Whereas if you have a heart attack in a public setting, the first thing anybody around you is going to do is call 911 because they want to get you out of that public setting.
Right.
So this is the problem. And you are right. It's a very difficult balancing act because nobody wants to spend 14 hours waiting in the emergency room because that's just a wasted day of your life. And yet you don't want to let something serious slip you by. And it is very much a judgment call. And that's when having somebody around you who can look at you and say, you know what, you're not that good. You haven't really had you haven't been able to keep down food or water in 12 hours. Things might be going in the wrong direction. And that's where it really takes the self-awareness to know, are you slowly improving? Are you holding stable? Or are things getting worse? And if things are starting to get worse, hour upon hour, then that's a sign that maybe you need to seek medical attention sooner rather than later.
And I guess part of the problem as well, especially over the past 24 hours here in the city, is there were a lot of people slipping and falling and breaking arms, breaking wrists, and stuff like that, and they ended up in the emergency rooms as well.
Yeah, and we forget, people go to the emergency room for a lot of things, and so whenever you have cold weather like this and whether you have icy weather, there's a lot of falls, there's a lot of accidents, there's a lot of broken bones, there's a lot of broken hips, and that clogs up the system as well. If you're waiting for a surgery time because of a broken bone and you are waiting, well, that's a bed that's being taken up in the emergency room. And so we realize is that there's a lot of things that we can do to disengorge the medical system, but it does mean more capacity across the board for medicine beds, for surgery beds, for long-term care beds. All of those people need to be moved out of the emergency room. And if they can't be moved out of the emergency room, well, then there's no room for the new people who are coming in, on a daily basis.
Dr. Labos, always great to talk to you. Plug your book one more time, will you?
Yes, the book is called Does Coffee Cause Cancer? It doesn't. But it's a nice little book about food myths that I think people will enjoy.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Hope to talk to you soon and hope you have a wonderful new year.
You too. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.